So thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to stepping into these mysteries of Sophia. And it's something that both Diana and I are, I don't know if you might call it swimming in these days. uh,
Steeped swimming.
Steeped swimming, and it can be a little overwhelming at times, but it is so exciting, and we're just so excited to uh, have some material and some information and some maybe inspiration possibly come through
Mm.
today. And we also well, yeah, but so hi, Diana.
Hi. Hello. Yeah.
Would you like to say anything
Yeah,
off the
I
bat?
just want to welcome everybody here. And this basically is an introduction to Sophia. So some of you are more familiar than others with Sophia and her story, but we'll be giving an overview. Dan has an enormous amount of information that we will touch on. I can't,
Did you catch that?
yeah. And I'm speaking in a like mostly from personal experience that I've had over the years. But I think we should start with
Well, yeah, we want to
wanted
give
to.
you just a little sense of the hour and a half where we're going to be starting with a brief opening. We might call it an invocation, and then Diane and I will go into our flow. Is we don't quite know quite what how it's going to come out, or but we'll step into that, and then. I do want to say that if you have questions, because there's not as many people here, there might be a little bit more opportunity
Mm,
to have some discussion, but primarily we'd like to leave the discussion towards the latter part of this to give us time to really just sort of lay out things. So we will give our presentation, and then we will present a an energetic process
mhm.
that we will invite you to join in it's just a fairly brief meditation and dropping in process that we'll explain at that time. And then we'll have some sharing, and then we'll do a closure. So that's a little bit of what we might anticipate. So we have somebody coming in. So very good. Okay. So welcome, Jennifer. And we are going to, maybe we have a little candle lit on the side here. Whatever you might do yourself to step into your quiet center. Diana has graciously suggested that I provide this invocation. So we're so grateful to be here with friends, dear friends, and people who are curious about Sophia. Thank you for being here. We open our hearts, we open our throats, we open our third eye, we open our crown chakra to Source, all that is ineffable, Ein Sof, the unknowable, God beyond God, Goddess beyond Goddess. We anchor our attention, we anchor our hearts to you, and we open to the flowering, the emanation that is of you and is of us. Christos, Sophia, we name you, we call you, we honor you. We are so grateful for you, divine masculine, divine feminine, emissaries of the light, carriers of the light, into this dimensional reality, into our communities, into our bodies. We receive, we hold, we honor, we emanate this divine spark, this pearl of deep wisdom that is within all of us. We seek to be anchored in our innocence, our core, pure self that is not caught in the web of lower dimensional influences. We command that any lower dimensional influences step back from this process as we remain anchored to Christos, Sophia, Shekhinah, Pronoia, Ein Sof. Thank you. Thank you. In love, light, and in depth, thank you. And it is so. May it be so.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
All right. Aha, so Ariel is coming. Welcome, Ariel. We just did the invocation. And we are about to step into some sharing of these mysteries. And really, we can only put our toe into the waters. But we are excited. So,
Yes.
Diana. Or were you going to go first, or were I going to? Why don't you go? Why don't you share some?
Well,
Yeah.
okay. So I wanted to talk about Sophia from a personal point of view, but also, just what I've come to know, which I think many women and men that are open are recognizing, is that the loss of the feminine aspect of God is like the Maha wound of humanity.
Maha wound.
The Maha wound, the major wound, the wound of the mother, which has left us like orphans. And I don't think that we are entirely aware of how much that has affected us, women, men, how much it's allowed the abuse of the earth, the abuse of animals, women, children, wars. It's the imbalance. It's that we have had no image, no feminine image of the divine. Now, Mother Mary has been there, let's say, in the Catholic religion, but she's kind of has been portrayed more one-dimensionally, but a full image. So to be female and to not have that, the idea of the image and likeness of God, and not have that, of what that means, being female, is huge and has impacted us so much. So one of the things that I have felt called to do and been asked to do initially in 2007 was to be a voice for her. My first experience was that I was living in Mount Shasta, and she came into my room, and she had a long mala.
You're talking about Sophia.
Sophia,
now.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And had a long mala by her side, and she was just flicking it with her, between her thumb and finger. And she said, "I'm going to give you my keys." And I didn't know what that meant. And in that moment, I didn't even know who she was. I knew it wasn't Mother Mary, who I had been very close to, as well as Anna, who has really, Anna actually had oversaw my incarnation, and that's a whole story in itself. But um, I wasn't sure. And then she didn't come in again until 2014. I was actually living in San Francisco at that point, and she came into my room there, and said, "I am preparing you to be a voice for me." And people will need the mother in ways that they cannot even anticipate now. And people in all cultures, all races, all religions can relate to the mother. And so she began to give me downloads, give me teachings. She kind of passed me off to different goddesses for initiations and empowerments that I received from each one, and asked me to begin walking the labyrinth at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco twice a week. And I began doing that, and I received a lot from that process, as well as a way to walk the labyrinth. There's many ways you can walk a labyrinth with different intentions, but I was given a very specific way, which connects you back into your matrilineal line. And then when you're in the center, you're basically in her womb. And anyway, that's a whole other, much more detailed process, but that's the gist of what I was given. And since then, since 2014, it's been very clear guidance. It's been a whole embodiment process, which continues, because there's all different levels of embodiment. And I think about ascension as like also a descent, right? We're being given the opportunity in this lifetime in these bodies to not have to leave our bodies to reach this divine place. We're bringing the divine in these bodies and divinize this physical body and walk as that in the world, which really has not been available to up until this point for large numbers of people. So I can talk more about that after, but I just wanted to kind of go into your piece that you want to share.
Well, we're working with the balance of the masculine and feminine, which is a part of the Maha wound, the mother wound. This imbalance that has really been going on for many thousands of years, and so within, between Diana and I, we're working in our relationship to hold this, and then also in our work with Sophia. And so I have come to Sophia through sort of another angle, and it's been through sort of a personal fascination with the name of Sophia that led me into the depths of this sort of wisdom and esoteric tradition. And because of a fascination and a meaning that Sophia had for me, it led me into those mysteries in a way that I feel like I'm tapping into a strata, a vein of underground, sort of deep-seated wisdom that I use the analogy of, we know that in 68 million years ago, the dinosaurs died in a catastrophe of an asteroid hitting the Earth. How do we know that? Well, geologists have found that there is a very thin layer of a very specific type of mineral that happened at 68 million years ago, or somewhere in that vicinity, and that it has to do with a massive cataclysm because it's all over the Earth. It's a very thin strata that gives information about this period of time when the dinosaurs, there was a massive nuclear winter, essentially. and the dinosaurs were wiped out, and it was such a catastrophe. So that is the strata. So what I have found, what we're finding, and what is out there is that there is a deeper level of wisdom that has been buried for a long time, and that through the course of my investigations and my work, that that this understanding of who Sophia is has come from this figure we know generally as Jesus Christ. That in first century there was this fellow who was a real person who was talking very highly advanced cosmology, and that he himself is saying he comes from the highest levels of creation, and that he has a relationship to Sophia that involves a whole complicated unfolding of reality, of creation, all the way down to us humans, humanity, and what's going on with us in terms of our a divine seeding. And it's a fairly complicated story. But Diana and I yesterday, we both stumbled on this. It was really fun. This idea that so Joseph Campbell would say, we need a new myth. Most of the myths that we know and that he talked about are parochial. They're indigenous. They're part of a certain culture. And he's saying we need a new myth for the whole earth. That it's not. We're now advancing to the global village. But what is the story? And I think that the Sophia is the new myth. Yeah. The creation story of Sophia is this new myth that is offering us a meta view of creation, and and who we are in relationship to the big picture that can help guide us. And that's really important, is that we seem to be lost, and we're in transitional times. We're in a liminal phase, betwixt and between, and it's a very dangerous phase, because we don't want to stay here too long. We need to, a lot of people are resorting to returning back to fundamentalism or things that are familiar, and yet we have this opportunity. And I think this is what I hope maybe people who are here today feel, this excitement, that there is an excitement in the air, that there is this potential, or this unfolding, or and the word ascension or 5D or graduating, or somehow greater embodiment that is potentially coming as there's a thinning of the veil of history. So we're excited about these mysteries. And so, Diana.
Yes.
That was a rough segue. Yeah, I'm just noticing right brain, left brain. Right brain, left brain is more the analysis and the understanding, and that tends to be a little more masculine, and I tend to do that. And I can bring in some slides to help fill out this creation story. And it's not just Gnostic, it's Kabbalah is different. But then there's this, what Diana, I think, brings so beautifully, which is the left brain. And I wanted to actually experiment with bringing up a slide that says it so well. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to screen share. We'll see if this works. Okay, there we go. The feminine mind is pictorial and symbolic, and comes close to what the ancients called Sophia. Carl Jung. Carl Jung was, of course, a big advocate of these esoteric traditions. And so with that, yes, where would you like to take this now?
So one of the things that really stands out for me is a lot of the spiritual teachings that we have available have largely come from the masculine perspective, and even wonderful teachings. I mean, I myself have gone to India. I've gained a lot from the masculine perspective. However, it's time. It's way over time for the feminine aspect to come in. We listened to a wonderful recording today, or YouTube today, of a man that was speaking about even the term enlightenment, and how the feminine aspect is really endarkenment. Not dark in any negative way that we tend to perceive it, but just like that, the void, the womb, that how it's a different, often a very different experience of spirituality, even the idea of reaching awakening or enlightenment in a female body. And even the Buddhists were teaching for a long time that you can't even reach enlightenment in a female body, until Tara, got wind of that, and she kind of, just said, "Well, I'll show them," and she, came onto the scene and really, changed that within Buddhism. But we have no. I think I'm just consistently struck by how much the patriarchy and the patriarchal teachings and impact and flavor, I'll say flavor of everything, even everything spiritual, has really been so heavily one-sided. And this is really a reclaiming. This is a reclaiming of that divine feminine aspect. This is reclaiming the relationship with our mother, and bringing her to us and us to her. So we're, Sophia originally seeded creation, like all souls come from her. And yet we've been cut off from her. And so now it's like bringing us back, like orphans, back to our mother. And as we do that, and as it really, really changes, literally changes our brains, changes the psyche of humanity, that is what will bring us into a new world, be able to change our consciousness, and be able to help us create whole different reality, a whole different world, a whole different way of being, a different way of relating. Our relationship is very, very conscious. I mean, we're always working. If things come up, we're very, very diligent about working through things, about much different paradigm than has been. And that in itself is a huge healing. Each person bringing the divine feminine and masculine into balance within them, and then also outside in relationship. So that is, again, I can't stress that enough, is that the balance is bringing the feminine back, and we're all agents of this. We are, I know I shared a little bit ago about my own personal experience with Sophia, but we are all being asked to be agents of this. and we are, it's like an incredible opportunity. It's an incredible gift of grace to be able to step up and say, yes, like I want that, for whatever, however that is for you. Each person's going to be different, but whatever that means to you. So I just offer that as something to know that is available at this point on the planet.
We were listening to a YouTube of Faisal.
Oh, Faisal.
I don't know his last name, but he's the Diamond Approach man, and he named it the deep. Mm-hmm. The deepening, not enlightening. It's the going deep, going in, mm-hmm. going into the dark, going into the unknown. Not scary, but the mystery. And so yes, and I love the word deep. In the Valentinian system, that was the word they used to identify sort of creation. Mm. So maybe I could give a little step into the story a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Would that be okay? Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna again screen share. And this is, there we go. So it's not necessarily perfect, but I think it'll do. Maybe I'm going to go like this a little bit. There we go. Okay. Yes, so introducing the mysteries of Sophia. So the strata that I've been following is found in really both the Gnostic and the Kabbalah systems. And these are Christian and Jewish mysticism traditions that really sprung out of first century initially, and I believe. And so Gnostic, it's a strange word, but it really comes from gnosis, which is a much softer word. And gnosis, is a Greek word, meaning sort of a knowing, an innate connection, an intuitive connection with the divine. Gnosticism really flourished in the first few centuries AD, and it consisted primarily of this complex creation cosmology, a unique language, and then these rituals for higher self-activation. So Gnosticism, I'm giving you a little intro to Gnosticism because it's just what is it? Where did it come from? So it was buried, we lost it. The Christian church persecuted it, and all of the scriptures were largely lost for 1700 years until they began to reemerge. This is the Askew Codex, discovered in the 1700s. Gospel of Mary Magdalene, Pistis Sophia, which is a big, major tome, probably the biggest of the Gnostic texts. And then in 1945, there was this massive discovery of the Nag Hammadi codices that were, as you can see on the bottom there, were like pretty bad shape, but we got 40 new books that were not known before this time, out of nowhere, 40 books that had been lost. And in 1977, they were finally translated and published in English. And this is the first edition. And www.gnosis.org is a really good website where this information can be accessed. So the Gnostic Christ and the creation story of Sophia. So the Gnostic Christ. So this is really, is just like Christ as he appears in the Gnostic system is very unique. And it's very different from how he shows up in the New Testament. And it's one of the sort of big excavations that I've been working on in my book, The Divine Spark Within, excavating the mysteries of Sophia and the deep Christ. that we need to differentiate between how Christ was showing up in the Gnostic system from how he shows up in the New Testament, because the Gnostic system is a reverberation of what was likely his original teachings. This is a reverse engineering, going back through the text, going back through the New Testament into some of those crazy texts in the first few centuries AD, through the Gnostic system into what seems to be a composite of teachings that likely came from this guy who says he comes down from the highest levels of creation. His soul, his higher self, literally descended down into this world. And he has the worldview of his high self. It's an extraordinary story. So to begin, so it's the gnosis of the mystery of the ineffable. And this is out of the Pistis Sophia, and Diana just happened to open the page this yesterday, and this was these words. This is what Christ is saying. I'm going to share with you the gnosis of the mystery of the ineffable. The ineffable is being a source unknowable. And here are different references to this concept. It's not a God that we bow to. It's completely in a whole other, it's a paradigm beyond paradigms to understand what this phenomenon of source, creation, an entity, a being, a conscious being that was all that was. She is infinite, she, he. It's an androgynous being. She is incomprehensible. She is ever imperishable and has no likeness to anything. She is unknowable. This is the Kabbalah. She was alone. So the Kabbalah is a cousin to the Gnostic system. They also picked up on these original teachings of Christ. And so you see these parallels between the two systems. And the Kabbalah is speaking to this level of reality. She was alone, without form, without resemblance to anything else, outside of which there was nothing. So this is in the secret book of John, this is the primary, before Christ says anything really in that very important core text, he's describing this. He calls it the monad. And that's how absolutely important and significant it is for us to be aware of what God are we praying to, or who is Yahweh, or what's going on with the jealous God and the angry God, and what we're sacrificing to the God. What is this master kind of slave relationship? What kind of belief systems have we got caught up in the name of religion? And so this is extraordinary. And I'm gonna skip over. So there's this soul Ein Sof that then, and this is to introduce Sophia. Then we go to the great emanation. There was an explosion. There was an absolute phenomenal, just undescribable explosion, emanation of light. And I am excited about the early Gothic cathedrals, which I think are describing some of these themes. And so this is the High Sophia, the great emanation, Ruach HaKodesh. This is the feminine aspect that is emerging out of this unknowable source, all that is, called thought, pronoia, enoia, barbala. These are different names that you find in the Gnostic texts. Pronoia is Greek for thought, and that's the word right now that I'm really feeling a strong affinity for when calling in the High Sophia. These are images from the Book of Yao, a very esoteric Gnostic text that is describing this great emanation. And this is from Kabbalah, image of the emanated worlds from the Ein Sof. And she is the spring of the living water. Secret Book of John. I just love that quote. And then here is Jesus is saying in the Secret Book of John, this is the first thought, pronoia, his or her image of the divine source reality. She, the feminine emanation, became the womb of everything. And for it is she who is prior to them all. And I think that's a good place to pivot here, because there's the unfolding of the divine, of the cosmology as Christ is describing it is fairly complex, but just those two I think are really so key: the ineffable and the great emanation being the feminine womb that Diana has such a strong connection with in her personal experience.
Yeah.
How's that for a segue?
Okay. So, yeah, it is just so interesting how we are coming at this from two different places, but the overlaps. I was in the first class. So there's a young male Indian guru who brought these teachings on the holy womb chakra from India. They were found on written on palm leaves, and originally given to the 7 great sages of India called the Saptarishis, like 7 to 10,000 years ago. And it has all this amazing information about the womb chakra and our womb chakras and how they are connected to the womb chakra of the Divine Mother. And it's just amazing to me. I mean, these teachings have formulas, mantras. I mean, mantras were like the first in Ayurvedic medicine, were originally given out as prescriptions. Like they were the first prescriptions. If you went and you had something wrong with you, you were given a mantra in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years. And so these womb chakra system has a whole body of mantras that you say to help purify your own womb, which allows a clearer connection to the Divine Mother's womb. So you clear your own womb, you connect to your biological mother, and then to the Divine Mother. And this brings a much more heightened power to each person for their path as a healer. It is said that Mother Mary knew these teachings, and that is how she was able to birth Jesus, like a being as high as Jesus. And so this is like, again, more lost wisdom to the feminine that has its roots in the Divine Mother. And we have like a baby chakra to her womb chakra. We have that's what we have in here, and we're connecting it back to her. So one of the experiences that I had, it was when I was charging some of these mantras, and one in particular, that is the mantra that you say to connect to her womb. I was charging it for 101 nights, and somewhere along that 3-month or a little bit more than 3-month period when I was charging it, I was taken just spontaneously to her womb and brought there, and I was allowed to stay there and heal. And then I came back down, and came back down through my matrilineal line all the way through my biological mother and then back to myself. And it was a healing for my whole line. This Sri Kaleshwar is the male Indian guru that brought these teachings to the West. And up until maybe 20 years ago, they were only given to saints and sages in India. But one of the things he shared was that he would do this as a regular practice for himself, for his own healing. He would go back to the healing, to the womb, for healing, to the womb of the mother, to the womb of Sophia, where we all come from. And so this wisdom, the wisdom of Sophia, is like wanting to come back in so many traditions. It is a world, like you were saying, this is a world myth that needs to come back. And I think we see it coming from different places, which is really wonderful, because then it's like one thing, kind of affirms and gives a greater, strength behind just one tradition. But I was heavily steeped in this, more of a Hindu tradition, but it is across other religions and cultures. And yeah.
Do you, I wouldn't mind you sharing, for the purposes of the idea of the masculine actually can hold that space. Mm. And that Diana had an experience recently.
Yes. Okay. So, so I had the experience I just shared, which was while I was saying mantras.
When you went up to the womb.
When I went up to the womb. But then about 2 weeks ago, I actually had it with Dan, which was really, really precious. We were just lying together and snuggling, and I was going through a very challenging moment, and I rested on him, and I could hear his heartbeat, and I all of a sudden found myself feeling weightless, and I was like back in the womb. I mean, I was having that experience and then being taken to her womb again. So it can happen in different ways. And both of these things happen to me very spontaneously in very different ways. And it is such a thorough experience and thorough healing. But yes, I thank you for reminding me, because that was really wonderful. And I definitely, it was very precious. But yeah, and I want to say that the womb chakra, men have a womb chakra as well. It's just women, because we have the womb chakra and we have a physical womb. It was said in the teachings that is like having a power object in our bodies. So as women, that is like a power object, and which is probably precisely why this information was kept from us, because it is very powerful information. And so I mean, imagine, the powers that be realizing that women have that power object in their bodies, and if they realize the power and they recognize the power and they know how to use it, how threatening that can be. So again, we're reclaiming it. We're reclaiming all of this, and it is all part of what, like, this is this time on the planet. This is what, we're coming out of as the Gnostics would say, we're moving through the gates, the like, you kind of think of them like prison gates, right? We're moving through the gates to our freedom and regaining our freedom.
So that's, yeah, it's amazing. And so maybe that's a good place for me to sort of share sort of the last part of this creation story, mm-hmm. and then we'll go into our little experiential. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, the 7 gates. So, we have this great emanation coming from Ein Sof, and then there's a whole thing that happens and the unfolding of the higher heavenly realm. But then there's, excuse me, then there's this, so Christ and Sophia are paired, and there's a beautiful quote that I can share here. Yes, Christ's female aspect is called first begotten, Sophia, mother of the universe, whom some call love. It's a beautiful quote from Eugnostos the Blessed. And so Sophia is paired with this Christ, and but there's this other Sophia who's almost like the daughter. She's like the offspring of the higher Sophia, and and she goes through this ordeal where I think I should really try to land that. Christ is the Word. Okay, hold on. Yeah. Son of Man, the higher Christ, consented with Sophia, his consort, and revealed a great androgynous light. Yes, his masculine name is designated Savior. This would be the Christ figure. His feminine name is designated Sophia, all begetress. Some call her Pistis. And Pistis is the faith and is identified with this Sophia who goes into the lower world. And she is tasked with bringing, for those who are in the world, this is a very unusual reference to understanding what Sophia did. I don't think she fell. I think that's a later interpretation of what happened to Sophia. She came out of the higher heavenly pleroma realm specifically with a plan to plant the lower, the farther out regions of creation with these divine bodily dwellings. So for those who are in the world who've been prepared by the will of our sister Sophia, we who are in the world, who we have been prepared by the will of our sister, she came forth to prepare monads and places for the Son of Light and the fellow workers, which she took from the elements below to build bodily dwellings from them. She's saying, this is Christ. Christ is saying this, apparently, in this text, which is crazy. I mean, you don't see this in the New Testament, but I mean, it's incredible that Sophia came to seed this dimensional reality with, we call it the anthropos, the divine form that could be in this third dimensional reality, but higher divine beings could come and inhabit this third dimensional form. But the plan went awry. There are these nasty little creatures called the archons. This is from Paris, from London. It's a classic kind of image of these archons. Here's the higher Sophia, who then is trapped. And this is an incredible image of synagogue on Notre Dame. And so, but then she's rescued by the Christ. I made a light power which I'd sent to save her become a light wreath on her head. Pistis Sophia, this is the Christ coming down, descending down through the gates, as Diana was saying. And here's on Notre Dame, this theme that emerges out of the early Gothic cathedrals, the coronation of the Virgin. So so Sophia is rescued, but then there's a whole other section of the story where then Sophia participates in the creation of man. This is where, so then the lower gods are creating this form, and it is, she plants, so where is this? Yes, this is it. Planting the divine sparks into humanity. So secret book of John. So Jesus requests these angels come down, and they go to Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, this lead archon. Blow into Adam's face something of your spirit, and his body will arise. And he blew into his face and the spirit. So this is in the Bible, in Genesis. God blew into Adam, and he rose. what you don't find in Genesis is that this is the higher dimensional beings who are tricking the lower God into planting the seed into the human form.
Mm.
So the power of the mother went out of Yaldabaoth and into the natural body, which they had fashioned after the image of the one who existed from the beginning. The body moved, gained strength, and it was luminous. And then there's this whole story of what happened with Eve. But that's the planting. That's a key section of the story of the planting of the sparks. So yes, this is yes, and that Christ came down to help humanity, to liberate us from the tyranny and the captive the captivation of the archons. And this is, the archons is a very difficult theme in the Gnostic texts. Jesus said, "Now I have taught you about immortal man, the anthropos, our divine self, and I have loosed the bonds of the robbers from him." So this is the grand story. And just a quick note, this is the Thomas cross. This is the cross that St. Thomas was carrying. I believe this is close to the original of what St. Thomas was carrying when he was murdered in India in first century AD. And that this is a map of that creation story, of the ineffable, the great emanation coming down into the 13th region. They call it the 13th aeon. But Sophia, the dove from the first mystery, bringing the seed down from the region of the right down into the lower world. Here's the 7 layers of the archonic system down into the lower world where the seed has been planted, and that this seed, as is sown in the Thomas cross, is the Shekinah, I believe. It is the divine spark within us. And this is the key. What is the spark? What is this? How do we access it? Is it just metaphor? Is it something real? And so this brings us to our little experiential process. This won't be very long, but we want to just give a little taste of stepping into the bridal chamber. That would be one word for it. Diana has another orientation, but it's bringing together this Shekinah, this inner spark that comes into a sympathetic resonance with the light of Ein Sof, the light of Sophia. So what we want to do is, have you find a comfortable, sit comfortably and take a breath. We're not going to do any music because it doesn't seem to work on Zoom very easily. And do you want to share the tete-a-tete?
So sometimes I know it's confusing to talk about receiving messages from another being outside of us, or having experiences, and part of the embodiment process. And I guess the best way I can describe that is what, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the mother and Sri Aurobindo. They were great teachers that are both passed over. But the mother explained, people would ask her, because Sri Aurobindo always referred to her as an embodiment of the mother. And people would say, well, how come you're talking, you're saying you're the mother and you're talking to the mother at the same time? How can that, explain that to us? How does that work? And she said, it's like a tete-a-tete. And it's a French term for basically like this back and forth. So
head to head.
Head to head. Okay, very good. So my personal experience is like that. Okay, it's not that I am giving my power away to some being outside of myself, but it's this constant flow of back and forth of communication, if you will, that is it's like almost it's just a constant flow. It's kind of like hard to tell one from the other at this point because it's going back and forth so much. Um, but so one of the things that we're going to do is take you into a process, because this kind of embodiment, this kind of connection to the divine is available to all of us who want it and are wanting to experiencing it. So we're going to walk through a little bit.
So it's very simple. So it's dropping in to the divine spark, the womb, the personal womb chakra, that pulse of creative energy, of joy, of love that we know is eternal. It's different for each of us. So dropping in. So what is that for you? Just bringing it in. And what we're going to do is we're going to first set it up so that you have it in your mind, and then we're going to just try to drop into silence for about 5 minutes, if that's going to work on YouTube, on Zoom. so very good. So yes, so feel that, we each have our reference point to this divine spark, this spring of the living waters in us. And then also, in humble position, we honor, we find ourselves in reverential connection with this unknowable divine source, ineffable Ein Sof. We hold the two, and we work to find a sympathetic resonance. It's the same. The divine spark is the stuff of this great emanation of the High Holy Sophia. And so tete-a-tete, it's the personal with the cosmic source. And so we will, I'm going to play a couple of notes on the flute, and then we'll drop in for a few minutes, and then I'll play the flute to bring us back out. Holding the image of the divine spark, Holy Sophia, High Holy Sophia, and then just dropping into silence, not thinking about it, just being in silence. We felt overlighted.
Yes, for sure.
So this is an opportunity to open it up if you would like. If there are questions, comments, discussion, how does this land? What stirs in you? There's a Michael Mead talks about where do you find yourself in the story? Are you caught in the clutches of the archons, or are you moving your way past through the gates into liberation? Is life heavy? How are we doing with the choice to pursue the spiritual, the depth? Or are we getting caught in sort of material consumption, overconsumption? So if you want to unmute and yes, Deborah.
Well, I have been caught for a while in the archonic grip. And somehow, I'm not even sure. I've been doing what I know how to do, but what you're saying has given me another framework because I have been practicing filling and absorbing with pure love, which I think is what you're talking about. And sometimes I can't feel it, but I'm determined to keep doing it. But this has given me like another level of a framework to have trust and to keep going. So I really appreciate what you're bringing.
Thank you.
And the archonic grip I think I still have slime on me, but it's not it's not winning anymore.
That's good. I like that. I like that.
You are, knowing Deborah, she is a strong warrior of health and higher vibrational consciousness.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lorna.
I was thinking we need a whole new word because history is his story, obviously, and her story is her story, which has, as you so well have explained, is so buried. And I've been in a Crohn's group studying the horrors of women in history. And one of the images that I think of lately a lot is Victorian dress with the waist belt so tight that the women couldn't breathe. And in a way, that's a metaphor for us women, that we just haven't been able to breathe freely. So one of the things that comes up for me is anger. I feel really angry about it. And I tend to go into victim mode, so I am trying to guard against that. But I don't want to act out of anger. I'm not really quite sure what to do with the anger, honestly, except having my scream therapy in the car, which I do. That does help. So I'm just putting out all of this. But I mean, the work that you two are doing, both in your studies and in your relationship, I trust that you're documenting it because, boy, is there a book there. And we need the path, don't we? We need someone to light the way. And it feels like the two of you in what you're doing could really light the way. Because so many of us, myself included, want to be different, want to live differently, but don't quite know how to do it, and certainly want to be in relationship differently. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you for your devotion.
Thank you, Lorna.
Oh,
Thanks
so
for the
sweet.
validation and recognition. Thank you.
And just to speak to that, I think that what we're trying to do is we're slowly working to Yes, to bring forward the new story that can help hold a vibrational frequency as we work together. This is a collective process. This isn't any one person, this is all of us, or as many of us that can do this to the point where there's a tipping point.
Right. Okay. I want to
Yes.
share that. So when I was in India in 2005, the guru there said that, which was very, very healing for my heart. So I'll share that, the tipping point, when we think of that, we tend to think of we need 51%, like you would to own a company or something. But what he said was we only need 0.001% of the total population. So if that's, what are we up to? 8 billion people on the planet, 7, 8, whatever it is. That would be like somewhere between 70 and 80,000, which is a lot more doable number than suggesting that we need, let's say 4 billion people to come around in their consciousness. It's just like that. That's what creates the critical mass. And if you want to think of another way to think about it, it's kind of like the 100th monkey effect, right? If I don't know if you've heard of that, but where scientists have taught 100 monkeys something, and once they get to the 100th monkey, there's monkeys across the world doing that without being taught, because we are really all connected. It's not just like a kumbaya thing. We really are. And that once enough humans are doing something, that it really is enough to change the whole thing. So everybody doesn't have to be on board, because I know a lot of us light workers that look around, especially like, ones that have been like myself, been doing this for 30 years. It's like, oh my God, are we ever going to get there? And so it's like, no, like it really helped me to know, that wasn't needed. Another just thing to throw out is like, if enough people, when the New York Times crossword puzzle comes back out on the East Coast, if enough people complete it, it's easier when it comes out from the West Coast people to complete it. So like there is something about that consciousness that we really, that will shift other people. And I, like, being on a path so long, I can see the progress, but it's slow. It feels slow. I mean, in the grand scheme of the universe, it's not slow, but it feels slow as a person. And so anyway, I just throw that out as kind of like a little gift of hope or like relief, to know that the work we are each doing does matter. So.
I was also very taken what you said about the mantras, and I just want to add that whatever you name what you're doing, if you decide to, the sound of it seems very important.
The sound of the what mantra?
Whatever you name this new way of relating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sound, and I think it's very wise to bring in sound like you did with the flute, because I think that it could be an express track to, back to raising frequency, right? It probably could be done just a certain way.
Yeah. And sound is super powerful. Sound coupled with intention is manifestation. It brings in manifestation much easier.
I'm wondering if I can do a shout out to Shanna. She interviewed me shortly after my book came out. It's just wonderful, just sweet, very, very, she held really wonderful space, and she has her whole relationship to Sophia. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Shanna, or say anything.
Oh, thank you both for holding this space. This is a beautiful experience. And I mean, I just find it so comforting when I hear other people speak of Sophia in the way that I experience her. And of course, there's not enough people, speaking of that. But I think that, I hope that at least my listeners have a little bit of knowledge of Sophia, because I try to speak of her as often as possible. And I've had, you on, which I think was probably my favorite episode
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
for sure. But, you know, and I understand, Lorna, that anger. I feel that too. And for the longest time, it really bothered me that I was angry. And then I came to this place where I'm like, it's okay to be angry. Like, when did it not be? You know, it's just an emotion, and we should be angry sometimes, you know, it's normal. And so allowing it actually has been something that has helped me, just allowing it. You know, and I think about the things that I have to retrain my brain, that I had to retrain my brain to do. Our Father who art in heaven, you know, hallowed be thy name. Father, Son, and who? A ghost?
Right,
You know,
right.
you know, to have the idea of a mother, which it's almost silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
We all have a mother. How else could there be creation without a mother? But yet she's been hidden, buried in the Nagamati, forgotten. This forgotten wisdom, who is also known as the first thought, right? And what we were left with was just the word.
Right, right.
And, you know, can you imagine just reading without thought? And so I'm such in a different place, Dan, today than I was then, because I was still angry then. And I also was, what is this? You know, who is she? Is she is she Mary? Is she this? Is she that? Is she God? Is she Jesus's, you know, who is she? And all of it. And now she just truly is wisdom. I mean, what is more powerful than wisdom? I know some of the smartest, but yes, dumbest people without wisdom, you know, it's just AI, really.
Wow. That's powerful.
I have to share something. This is also part of the video that we were watching earlier. The idea, like in spiritual circles, it's always about truth, right? Truth is really, really prominent, but wisdom is above truth. And so one of the examples he gave, which I thought was so interesting, or so like it really like dropped it in for me, was if soldiers were coming to a home and the mother answered the door and said, you know, where are your children? And if she gave them away, you know, meanwhile she has them hiding in the basement, she said, oh yes, I have children here. That would be truth, but it wouldn't be wisdom. Right? So wisdom is a very high attribute and a very high ideal, and that for us to embodying that wisdom. And that's really, you know, that's what Sophia is. I mean, that's what her name literally translates to in Greek, is wisdom.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to just maybe mention that Shanna, you sparked something for me, and that is that, yes, the Christ aspect of all of this has been, you know, is just such a, oh my gosh, you know, Jesus, it's shambles. It's absolutely off the charts craziness, you know, who Christ is, what the projection is, what who he's meant in history, how many wars have been fought, you know, what's happening with the culture now, with a kind of religious fundamentalism that, and all in the name of Jesus. And you know, I think that this strata, the mysteries of Sophia may be one word for it. There may be other words in other traditions, but you know, Sophia is a good word, wisdom, that the Christ who seems to be associated in this way is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And we can begin, well, I'm finding myself coming into sort of a newfound relationship with this being and appreciating what was going on. It's phenomenal. And so the masculine is an aspect that can help hold space for the feminine to emerge. Rosamond Miller, the great Gnostic priestess of the South Bay, who recently passed, an amazing woman, she put it this way. It's something like, he came for her who came for us. Sophia came for us. Christ came for Sophia. And so we're really looking to unpack these mysteries. And so I think maybe with that, we want to do a little bit of a closure.
Yeah, just maybe, is everyone else complete, or are there any more
Any
questions?
last little thoughts?
Oh, yeah.
Ariel.
Am I coming through?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. As we're all sharing, my reflection is that we're each carrying seeds, and that we're activating those seeds in and with and through each other. That is very much my experience today with both of you, Diana and Dan, that there's an activation going on, a very beautiful activation. And this is something that each one of us has the potential of doing on a regular basis, an everyday basis, simply energetically holding another person and coming from the heart. Therein lies the really sacred activation. Reflecting back to my very early years as I was entering puberty, I was blessed with something. It was like the hand of the Divine Mother on my shoulder saying, the future holds something very, very beautiful. And that manifested in a chalice, what I called the sun chalice, that filled the entire sky above the distant horizon. And that was a golden red light, totally alive. It was a very, very alive, living light. And that burned like an ember in my heart for many years. And in my 30s, I realized that it was a collective vision for all of humanity. And I received courage right from the very beginning, but I became much more awake and aware to what the message was of that. And so it's instilled in me a knowing and a deeper courage to meet these times and to share that light with others. And so this is a process that is an integral part of my life. As I move through the days, I have a lot of really synchronistic experiences with people. So both of you, thank you so much for sharing so intimately who you are, your very intimate experiences. They are very dynamic and very alive, and I feel very blessed to have you both in our community, and that the two of you came together to share and to cultivate and to nourish each other. How precious that is.
Thank you so much, Ariel.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. So Diana's going to lead us on a little bit of a closing. And actually, what I'd like to ask, if we would like to put this video up on YouTube, just to have it on our website, just so people can see. And if you do not want to have your portion or something that you shared part of this, let me know, and I'll edit it out. So, okay. And thank you so much for being here.
You.
Yes.
All of you. Thank you.
Okay.
It is with full hearts and gratitude that we bring this special time that we've had together to a close. And we thank Sophia. We thank our higher selves for bringing us here and having us be at the point on our paths that we can hear this, that we can understand this, that we have a level of wisdom to interpret this, and that we have had the courage to stand up and say, raise our hands and say, yes, I want to be a part of this. So I leave all of you and ask that you all receive the blessings of Sophia. Whatever is perfect for you, that you may all have the experience in perfect time of being brought back to her womb. And that whatever her expression is within each one of us, that it is carried out and shared with the people that we meet, with the people that we work with our families. That energy is just shared, even if they're not ready to receive her name yet. That we all experience the love of the Divine Mother, the gentleness, the endarkenment of her embrace. And so it is.
Many, many blessings.
Blessings.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're going to be going to Europe for a couple of weeks in August, and we're very excited about that. And we will share some of our findings. We'd like to do some more of this, and we'll let you know.
Right. We're calling it this. It's like a lot of people go on the Mary Magdalene tour of Southern France. This is the Sophianic mystery tour.
There was a song about that. Maybe.
Yeah.
So yes. So thank you. Thank you so much
you.
for being here and participating, and much love.
Yes. Blessed be. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.